What is up, guys? JT Anime Nerd here, bringing you all that nerdy goodness. Today, I want to talk about, well, more like discuss the topic of the currently rumored anime crossover game known as Jump Stars Ultimax. I'm going to talk about my hopes, my fears, my wants, and my not wants when it comes to this game. Now, I'm not going to go into the topic of online content besides DLC because I prefer to play console games offline. That's just the kind of gamer I am. Now, anything I mention when it comes to what's been heard about the game, I've heard mainly from other videos on YouTube that talk about it and have their own credible sources. I don't have any connection to any game companies, and I certainly don't have the know-how or gall to even get inside information from these companies. I'd rather not stoke that flame. So take whatever I say about the game that I've heard from other people with a grain of salt, as even the existence of this very game could be false. But I'm honestly confident that it's true unless Cyberconnect or whatever other company that's rumored to be involved with this game says otherwise. Now, first, let's talk about previous crossover games, that being J-Star's Victory Versus and Jump Force. Two games I love the most, and yet didn't really last very long on the popularity spectrum. First, let's talk about J-Star's Victory Versus. The game was decent in my opinion, but it had its issues. One of which, to me, was how they went about activating a character's ultimate attack, and of course, the story. The story being the biggest issue out of them all for me. When it comes to the story, I liked the concept, but the main villain, along with the repetitive enemies, ultimately ended up being just clones of the characters from the main roster. The world in the story mode, though, was honestly great in my opinion. We saw certain anime characters interact and even see certain anime characters in locations that we would never normally see them in. The world building was great in my opinion. Now, when it comes to Jump Force, there were major problems. The first biggest issue was the animation. I don't know whose idea was it to animate the game in that kind of engine, but whoever approved that needs to get checked, because that was a complete lapse in judgment. Many players will agree with me on that. The cutscenes were horrible, and the only ones I liked were the cinematic cutscenes with fighting in it, which there aren't many of in this game to begin with. I do love the roster, the story, even the original characters. However, we now get to an issue which I didn't even know until recently was an issue, and that's the licensing of the characters. Now, I know that this game was becoming unpopular, and even with DLC, was eventually going to be dust in the wind. However, what I didn't see coming was the delisting and the tossing aside of the DLC characters. One of the reasons I decided to even make this video was because I didn't have the finances to purchase the DLC character packs to this day. Then when I heard about Jump Stars Ultimax, I was beginning to think about Jump Force again and began watching videos about its eventual downfall. However, while I was aware that online services were ending, I did not realize or even know again until recently that it was not only getting delisted, but the DLC characters were taken from us instead of just letting us have them for free, which is what they say to this day on the PlayStation Network. Like I literally checked like a few days ago, and it says they're all free, but you can't download them. They're still on the PlayStation Network. I don't know about you guys, but that feels like a big FU to the people who weren't lucky enough to purchase the DLC characters before the sales ended. And this is where one of my don't wants for Jump Stars Ultimax comes in, and that's reliance on online connectivity. I'm not a fan of the kind of games where most content is online reliant, such as, say, the Supreme Kai of Time in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. I can't afford online memberships, nor am I even interested in online memberships. I just want the character. So why can't the Jump Force DLC characters from the two character packs just be added into the base game through an update, or just give them to us for free if you don't want to do anything with them? If you don't want to do anything with them anymore. It's really not fair to those who still play this game today and who still love it. Jump Force is currently my favorite anime game of all time, simply because it's the most recent and modern anime crossover game and with the current iteration of the characters we know and love from the series. Even if it is a licensing issue, it's not fair to the fan base or players that we have no access to these DLC characters. I'm as mad about this as I am at WBD for how DC Comics films have been treated these past few years. But that's another can of worms for another day. I don't want Jump Stars Ultimax to be online reliant for this very reason. I think what they should do is what Street Fighter V did with their DLC characters. I don't know if Street Fighter 6 is doing the same thing right now, but what Street Fighter V did was have their DLC characters available through an in-game currency that you have to grind for hours to earn so you can satisfyingly unlock that particular DLC character if you don't want to pay for or with real for or that character with real money. It's literally that simple. In case of case purchasable DLC content doesn't work out, which it obviously didn't for Jump Force, I'm hoping fan outcry can change this for the DLC characters in Jump Force, but so far it doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. Do you guys know how long I've been waiting to play as Meruem from Hunter x Hunter? Now that chance is gone until someone feels like either putting the DLC characters back or including the imminent update. Also, to make a console game that's online reliant only guarantees that it's a game that's not meant to even last. Because even if Jump Force continued its online service to this day, it would eventually have to close its servers for the next big thing, making the online services obsolete and dead. So, dear God, don't make this game Jump Stars Ultimax online reliant, or I'm going to flip out. Alright, now let's get into what I think is the most important thing, and that's the character roster. Now, I personally hope for a character roster equal or greater to Tenkaichi 3, and from what I heard the upcoming Tenkaichi 4, which is probably the biggest character roster in fighting game history. Unless Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 has a bigger roster. To be honest, I haven't compared and contrasted. But anyway, according to sources online, the roster for this game is going to be over 163 characters, including transformations. We seem to be getting 14 characters from Dragon Ball Z, 17 characters from Naruto, 14 characters from One Piece, 7 characters from Bleach, 8 characters from My Hero Academia, 5 characters from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Light Yagami from Death Note, 13 characters from Jujutsu Kaisen, 8 characters from Hunter x Hunter, Yugi and Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh!, Kenshiro and Rao from Fist of the North Star, Ryo Saiba from City Hunter, Yusuke and Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho, the character of Toriko by himself, Koro Sensei and Nagisa from Assassination Classroom, 10 characters from Demon Slayer, Himura and Shishio from Rurouni Kenshin, 4 characters from Boruto, Seiya and Shiryu from Saint Seiya, Saiki Ike from The Disastrous Life of Saiki K, Gintoki and Kagura from Gintama, Bobobo and Don Patch from Bobobo, Shoyo Hinata and Tobio Kageyama from Haikyuu, still need to see that anime, Alan Walker from D. Greyman, another anime I still need to see, and Asta and Yuno from Black Clover. Now, some of this roster does sound far-fetched, as characters from Haikyuu make no sense to me due to the fact that that the anime series is a sports anime, not a battle anime. But that's really just a nitpick for me. But either way, if this is true, I'm happy because I haven't seen a roster like this since Tenkaichi 3 or Xenoverse 2. Plus, there's the fact that this probably exceeds that, and that in itself is unrealistic. That if you look at it from a business standpoint, that is, if you look at it from a business standpoint, as most of the characters on this roster can be saved for DLC. But either way, I'll be happy if this is true. However, I would replace Haikyuu with Shaman King. That series needs more love. Now, the biggest reason I play anime games is for roleplay and writing purposes, but mainly roleplay because I love acting out my own stories and using the versus mode in these kinds of fighting games. That's one of the reasons I'm so peed off about not having access to the DLC characters in Jump Force. So the roster, or I feel for a game like Jump Stars Ultimax or a future game like it, has to have a roster comparable to at least Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm connections coming up because they're getting more characters in their base roster. DBZ Tenkaichi 3 and Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. I don't think any more needs to be said of this aspect. Now, when it comes to gameplay and mechanics, I say just make it similar to the Ultimate Ninja Storm series with a single button system. Let's say it comes out for PlayStation. Circle can be used for physical attacks, square can be used for energy and distance attacks, X is obviously jumping, and triangle can be used for powering up and activating super and ultimate attacks. When it comes to switching super and ultimate attacks, the best way to handle that is the same way as Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, which allowed you to pick and choose a character's ninjutsu and ultimate jutsu. I do want them to have a transformation system, but more along the lines of the Tenkaichi games and not Awakenings. For when you have to wait for your health to reach a certain point. I want all the characters in the games to have access to all transformations from their first to their recent. I also want two special battle events during fights, and that's bursting and clashing. Think back to the Budokai series of DBZ. The burst mode was basically the game's version of those moments in Dragon Ball where the two fighters kept throwing fast kicks and punches at a breakneck pace, and you have to keep rolling the analog stick to win the struggle. The same is said for clashes, which would be this game's iteration of beam struggles from the early Dragon Ball Z Budokai games or clashes in the Naruto Ultimate Ninja series in its earliest years. I would also like special interactions for both the beginning of matches and the end of them for certain characters, but I can honestly live without them, so I won't make a big deal out of it. Next up, I want to talk about story. I don't think I have to go too deeply into it, but when it comes to the stories of the jump crossover games, they're never usually the best written. So far, the best story is of course Jump Force, but even that could have been better in my opinion. I feel like when it comes to games like this, they hold back in the writing that draws us into the very anime we watch. So I'm thinking that they should at least reach out to a big time manga writer to at least make the story its best. I mean, Jump Force got Akira Toriyama to create three original characters for that game, so why couldn't they convince him or someone in the same or similar league to help write the game's story? It's just kind of baffling to me, but we'll move on from here. Now let's of course talk about stages, which so far Jump Stars Ultimax is said to have the Tournament of Power arena from Dragon Ball Super, Karakura Town from Bleach, Hidden Leaf Village from Naruto, UA Training Grounds from My Hero Academia, Going Merry Deck from One Piece, Alubarna from One Piece, Infinity Castle from Demon Slayer, Planet Namek from Dragon Ball Z, Valley of the End from Naruto, Chunin Exams Final Stage from Naruto, Seirete Execution Grounds from Bleach, Tartarus from My Hero Academia, presumably because Tartarus is a very commonly used name these days, and the Shinigami route from Death Note. Now, when it comes to stages, I would definitely want a stage destruction system as well as an alternate stage system. The alternate stage system is like in the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games or even in Dragon Ball Fighters, to where you push your opponent into the border of the stage, causing a dramatic event that sends them flying, deals damage, and changes the stage to a new area. Now, the stage destruction system is for the characters that possess destructive ultimate attacks. Like Dragon Ball Z Budokai and the Budokai Tenkaichi series, when a character uses a destructive ultimate attack and it hits the stage ends up getting destroyed and turns into a destroyed version of that stage. This, in my opinion, would allow for a chance to create an alternate destroyed version for stages that weren't even destroyed in their respective anime. That's really as much as I can go go on with this, aside from the fact that I hope that there is a stage for at least each franchise in this game, as well as stages that can be included with DLC characters that bring in new series to this game. Well, it looks like we've reached the end of the discussion. I really have a passion for anime, and that's why I dream of the perfect anime crossover game. But for now, it looks like we're just going to have to wait and see if Jump Stars Ultimax is even real to begin with. From what I've heard since it was rumored, it wasn't going to make itself known until 15 months had passed. Some people thought it would show up at a few gaming events around that time, but I think the 15 months are more realistic, and it's currently been 2 months since then, so we seem to still have 13 months to go before this hypothetical game may be a reality. So far, Cyberconnect nor Bandai Namco have denied this game, so there may be hope for its existence yet. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and put down in the comment section below on what on what you thought about this video and the topics discussed in it. If you are a fan of anime crossovers, then why not check out my anime a crossover fanfiction series, Dragon King. The link to the playlist will be down in the description below. Oh, so please show some love to that fanfiction series, as it is a real passion project of mine that I just want to share with anime fans everywhere. With all that said and done, I'm JT Anime, and I'll check you guys later.